Well, distributed is the one driving whole
One driving wheel pump.
So.
This thing's set up. Go up one more. There we go. Hold on. Let me get the lock pin. Perfect.
What's up, guys? I can't really talk too much currently. I got a sinus infection and it's messed up my throat. But as you saw in the previous clips, we got the block back 2 nights ago, and I've been kind of bedridden for the past day. But I'm feeling all right now with some heat running in the barn, so we can just get the valve covers on this and then the valley plate too, if I can find it. I know it's around here somewhere, but I don't have much dialogue going right now, so I can't talk too much, but we can always get the valve covers on and do some other stuff too. Alright guys, I got the valve covers on. And after I was done getting the valve covers on, I looked in the back where I had some of the old parts for the LS. And surely enough, I had the old Valley cover plate in there. And I cleaned it up with a little bit of Scotch-Brite and some brake cleaner. Got each side the best I could. Some of it's just stained in. On the inside doesn't really matter, but I got as good as I can. So on the front, did the same thing, and now we're just gonna hit it with some gray paint. And I have the old, where are they? The old knock sensors that were in it, or the cam sensors. So we can just reuse them. We're not gonna hook them up because we're not gonna need them, but we at least need something in the place to thread in to block it off. So we're gonna paint that, and then I think I'm gonna call it a night, because I'm kind of beat. But we'll paint this first. And then if it's dry enough, maybe we'll just sit it on and see what it'll look like. I got to get some bolts for it, though, because I don't know what happened to the bolts when I took it off the old one. So we shall see how it comes out. How's it going, guys? It is 2 days since the last clip, and we are going to, for the first time, mock the block up in the truck. So we got to get it over and get the cherry picker hooked up, and then we can see how my mounts are going to fit. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to cut either this out some, the cross member, or we're going to have to do some modifications on this part here, the firewall. Maybe just knock it in as much as we can. I just got to be careful because the bracket for all my relays, fuse block, and ignition system are there. So we got to keep that in mind. And it would be a lot easier to just cut out a piece here. I don't want to cut out too much because it's a lot of strength in this front end. This is mainly all that I have. But it will be getting X bracing, which will be going farther back behind the transmission. So that'll definitely help. But I like to keep this as strong as I can to keep it from twisting too much. Consider I'm going to be laying down a reasonable amount of power. So we're going to mount. We're going to get the mounts set first. We're going to tack them in place. And what's nice with these is these ones are, these are billet mounts. So you can actually adjust these based on where you want them. So I have them as far forward as possible to give me enough clearance to fit the oil pan back. So it's actually more towards the front right now. So I can actually just take these three off and just move it over or back even further if I really wanted to. But we're going to try them there first and see how much clearance that gives us. So we'll see how that works out. Alright, so I got kind of an idea about where it's going to sit. The one thing that might need to be changed, is I think I'm going to have to cut this. That was for, I believe that was for the old shifter column that was on the steering column, the shifter on the steering column. So I think I might be able to get rid of that and give me a little bit more room. And as far as what's going on down the bottom, I can't really see too much. I have to wait till I have an extra pair of eyes down here. But from the front, it doesn't look too bad. I think the oil pan might actually clear that cross member. Just barely starts to, but I still might have to make some adjustments because as it sits right now, the top of the bell housing will be like up here, and the firewall is like has another 3 inches before you reach the bottom. So, but I still don't have it fully set down. It's still kind of free dangling. So we shall see where we are in a few minutes here, and I'll give you guys another update. All right, so hang on a second. Let me get over here. So I just cut this part off that was for the old steering column, because we don't need that anymore. I'm going to file that down. It's still a little bit sharp. Cut some bolts that were sticking out here. They were just the threads for them. I don't know what it's for specifically, but I know that whatever is there, I'm probably not taking out. I'm sure it's just an electronic or something that was left from the stock harness. So, and I also dented this back more. I'm denting the firewall in a little bit so it'll clear for the bell housing bolts. And I think, honestly, the first time that I mocked it up, it's not too bad. It's just going to be getting it down to about here. So the bell housing will come up, and I'll be able to get a bolt in. That's pretty much all I need room for is to get the bolts in. So, and then we're going to have to figure out where the motor mounts are going to sit. But for right now, all I did was cut these. Put the firewall in a little bit, maybe about 1 inch all the way around. So I actually have a little bit more room now. So we'll see where that gets. Okay, so now that we are fabricating the mounts in, we had to flip this one around so it actually sits on the frame better. It has to move back a little bit more, but we can't move it back more because the mounting bolts for the block are hitting the firewall. So what we have to do is we're going to pull these out. We're going to pull it back out, first of all, switch out these bolts so we can have a smaller head, and then we can push the block back a little bit more, so that way we can tack the mounts into place. And then we can cut the firewall back. We're going to have to cut it because the bell housing is going to be way too far up into here. So the bell housing is going to stick probably about an inch or two up from where the bottom of the firewall is now. So it's not going to work where it is right now. So we got to cut all this out and then basically just bend it in and just give us some more room. And easier said than done usually. Also, if you are ever putting a V8 into an S10, I know a lot of people like to switch out the steering column or just a shaft for the outer part in the engine bay. You do not have to do that if you have forward-facing headers like I do. What you can do if you don't care, I know a lot of people probably care more than I do about the appearance, but this isn't exactly for appearance, it's strictly for performance. All we did was we unbolted, so there's 4 bolts for a first-gen S10 for the bottom part here on the firewall for the steering column. So you take them out, and what we did was we took out the old rivets that were here holding these bolts in, and we put new ones in that were longer, and as you can see, we put spacers in on either side. That allowed us to push the steering column down, so that way you can then fit your header where it needs to be, because before, as you can see, it was centered about where my finger is, and we moved it down about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, giving us enough clearance to get to the spark plug hole and also to reach the bolts for the header. So if you're ever doing that and you don't really care, you can take those bolts out, take the 2 bolts out of the steering column, and put something here to hit it down best you can, or push it down, or whatever you have to do to get it out of your way. Because as it sits now, it's fine, and it still works fine. We still have clearance on everything too. We tested it with the wheel. So
we have to put a whole support back here, and I really don't fucking want to do that.
no, and it's not as strong.
Right.
So
I want to grind these flush.
yeah.
We're going to grind these all flush, and then I am going to mark, because if we can put nuts back in here and through bolt it and then weld it, we're going to do both.
Okay.
I just think because if the welds would break or something, I don't know. I doubt that they would, but I don't know. We'll think about that. Meanwhile, while you're working on that and that, I'll mark this, pull the plate off, and try and get that drill.
Okay. Yep. Nice. Well, I was wrong. We took the old steering shaft out that's for the firewall section because the nut that was sitting here was too fat and it was hitting the header. With this is an aftermarket one from Amazon that's built for LS swaps because you can extend this further than a stock one. So we had this down as far as possible so the header clears it fine. And I actually picked up a motor bearing. This is designed to go on a shaft for a squirrel cage design blower wheel. So what we ended up doing is we're fabricating these brackets to weld on into the inside of the engine bay here, or into the inside of the firewall. I'm sorry. We're gonna have one up top, one down the bottom. Run some bolts through, so then we can disconnect it and move it if we need to again. But that's what we're gonna go with for right now, and it gives us plenty of clearance. Then we're just gonna put a patch piece over this to clear it, to block it off, and that should be it. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for today. And I think it's going to wrap up this video. I'm going to probably just end it here. And the next video will consist of us actually getting it in, hopefully with the new transmission. And then we can finally get that wrapped up, get the front end back on it. so that way we can start getting all the accessories back on. But as you can see, it's now cut, so we're gonna have to make a patch piece for that tomorrow, and then hopefully that'll give us enough room with the new bell housing that I'm going to be using, which is basically the same size. It's just stronger material. It's not an OEM bell housing, it's an Ultra bell that I'm putting on it. And then we can also do the patch for the steering column as well. That came out pretty well. It's not too bad. It just looks goofy, but it kind of is what it is. It's not meant to look good. You're meant to pull up to a car show with this and people are like, what the hell went on here? But yeah, kind of is what it is. So we're gonna come back down tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to get the new patch mocked up for where the transmission's gonna go. But we had to make enough room to get to the bell housing bolts. So if we ever have to, well, whenever I have to, because I know I'm gonna have to do it, whenever I have to pull the engine out or the transmission itself, I can leave either the other component in without having to pull the whole powertrain out. Just makes it a lot easier and a lot simpler, because with the front end on this, I'm not going to be able to pull the transmission along with the engine block out anyway, so I'm going to have to separate them and then take them apart and do whatever I would have to do. But it just makes it easier when you're able to take either one out separately. You know, you don't have to take the whole package out. So it's going to wrap it up. Heat just cut off. It's going to start getting cold. It's been pretty shitty weather here lately in Maryland. So we're going to wrap that up for today, and stay tuned because we're nowhere near done. There's a lot more content coming for the truck. So thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. But until next time, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.